It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Once again, it's your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's a Tuesday morning. Now, on Friday, the 3rd of March, we'll be celebrating World Wildlife Day. Now, this day is dedicated to celebrating wild animals and plants, plus their continuous contribution to, of course, our lives and our livelihoods and the health of our planet. And this year's theme is Partnerships for Wildlife Conservation. And what better way to celebrate than by chatting to WWF South Africa's Head of Business Development, Justin Smith. And he's joining us this morning to chat about the importance of preserving and protecting our wildlife. Great to have you.
Yeah, good to have you, Justin.
Good morning, gents.
Yeah, man, look, I'm so excited because this is obviously right up my alley, and I think for a lot of South Africans that celebrate the magic that we have. But let's talk about WWF, what exactly you guys are doing, especially when it comes to preserving South Africa's magic and beauty that we have. How do you guys form a part of this whole thing?
Yeah, so I think to start with, South Africa is one of the 10 most biodiverse countries in the world. So, as you said, we've got these incredible natural resources around us. And that makes it quite important for us to preserve it, not only for our own, but as almost for the world. Because we've got these unique plants, animals, and systems that if they're gone, you know, a lot of things that depend on nature are going to fail. And we depend on nature for food, for fuel, for medicine, and other resources.
Happiness, joy.
No, I mean,
the important stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got this incredible connection and dependency on nature. So we've really got a responsibility to make sure it continues to work properly into the future. And I mean, at the moment, it's not working that well. We've really destroyed a lot of it. So we've got to not only try and stop doing that, but also restore some of the functioning of the systems around us as well.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we're seeing some pictures right now that, you know, from work that you have done with WWF. In what ways is wildlife being threatened right now and exploited? I mean, you are at the front lines of that battle.
There's a number of really big threats. I guess, you know, a lot of people know about illegal wildlife trade and poaching on some of the key species in South Africa, particularly things like rhinos, pangolins, and others. We also have an issue with alien invasive plants and animals that get brought into the country and then end up almost sort of displacing the natural populations of animals. Climate change is really causing a lot of challenges in terms of not only the sort of droughts and flood side, but also temperature increases, making it very difficult for certain species to continue to exist. And the other big issue with climate change, obviously, in South Africa is water scarcity. So, you know, a lot of the species depend on sort of regular water availability. So you've got all of these kind of threats working together, and it's quite an interconnected web to try and solve the challenges around it as well.
Yeah, and rightfully so, you guys are doing incredible work in trying to solve that. I mean, I'm taking into account and looking at what you guys have done over the past few years. I can't even begin to create a list of the impact you have in these various different spaces, right? I mean, we're talking about the ocean, we're talking about land, communities that work together, we're dealing with pollution as well. Where are you guys at this year? Like, what is the plan? Is it just to kind of continue to tackle everything that we can when it comes to this conversation? Or do you have like a specific strategy going forward for the next few years?
We've always got kind of a short, medium, and long-term strategy. I think we know a lot of the challenges we're working with are not going to be solved overnight. A lot of the international commitments around issues like biodiversity protection and climate change are through to 2030 and even 2050. So all of that seems very far away, but actually, if we don't change things right now, the trajectory to get there is impossible. Yeah. So we're really trying to work with individual South Africans, with businesses, with government to create that understanding of the need to really make changes now. And I mean, we're starting to see that some of that happen. In December last year, there was a global biodiversity agreement that was finalized in Canada, and that effectively means that across the world, we need to protect 30% of our land and oceans. And that's what people think will at least give it a fighting chance in terms of recovery and restoration of nature into the future. In South Africa, we are a pretty long way away from that. I mean, right now, we only have about 5% of our own marine environment protected.
Oh, wow.
And about 12%, depending how you look at it, on land. So one of our big jobs as WWF is to work with landowners, with communities, to look at protecting and securing their sort of habitats. And for many, we're seeing them commit, you know, to only have good agricultural practices, to kind of protect the species that operate or live within their lands as well. So it really is where we started from, a partnership between ourselves, government, business, communities, to kind of push that growth of our footprint and make sure South Africa's biodiversity is protected.
I'm listening to you talking about, like, you know, treaties being signed and agreements being signed, and I'm thinking to myself, why does it seem like it's such a mission and such a push to convince the world and people who live in this world that it's so important to look after our environment? Where's the pushback coming from? And then part of that question, I want to talk about what you as WWF are doing to celebrate and commemorate World Wildlife Day this year.
So I think, unfortunately, there's always people with a very short-term perspective. So if I'm a business, where's my next quarterly results or 6-monthly results coming from? And I'm going to do the most, you know, if I have to exploit something to kind of have good results, I might do that as a business. That's not all businesses, but it is something that happens. So we've got to get people to stop thinking about immediate exploitation of resources and actually thinking, how do you kind of change the way you operate over the long term and make sure that there's going to be enough available, not only for your business to continue, but also for everybody who depends on nature to have an opportunity as well. So I guess one of the things we tried to do, just to highlight some of the challenges around nature right now, is a campaign called World Without Nature on World Wildlife Day. So our logo and any other logo that's got some aspect of nature in it, we're asking organizations to actually just delete the logo for the day. So have a blank.
Oh, wow.
And kind of get people to start thinking more and more about what would happen if we didn't have nature. So if you are, you know, let's say Morocco swallows.
Yes.
No swallow.
No longer have swallows.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you tiger brands in South Africa, no tiger.
Wow.
So it's a very simple mechanism, but it's just one to get some discussion and awareness going.
If you're a sports brand that has an animal jumping over some print, take away that puma. no more
totally.
of that.
Yeah.
Wow, absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Justin. Really appreciate it, and highlighting the importance of us having to look after what essentially is the future of our world. And if you'd like to find out more and support World Wildlife Day that is happening on the 3rd of March, you can visit www.wwf.org.za.